Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Watertown Belmont Chamber of Commerce Annual State of the Towns Luncheon. This event today is sponsored by Cambridge Savings Bank, Freedom Commons at Belmont Hill, and Watertown Savings Bank. Our guest speakers today are Michael Driscoll, manager for the town of Watertown, town manager, and Thomas Younger, town administrator for the town of Belmont. They will focus on the 2006 accomplishments of Belmont and Watertown and what lies ahead in 2007 for these communities. At this time, I would like to thank our corporate sponsors and also have them come up and just say a few words briefly. I have Janine Kilburn, Vice President, Business Relationship Manager from Cambridge Savings Bank. I have Carol Katz, Vice President, Marketing from Watertown Savings Bank. And I have Gary Rossi, Executive Director of Freedom Commons at Belmont Hill. So if you just want to come up and just say a few words.
Thank you, Brenda. I just want to let everybody know, in the spirit of today's talk, tonight the bank is giving out $50,000 through our Customer Choice Awards. And if you have a few minutes tonight, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Post 440, stop by and see some of the good works being done all through town that we're helping to support. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Janice Kilburn. I'm the Business Relationship Manager for Cambridge Savings Bank. We're very pleased to be sponsoring this event. And I just wanted to take the time to let you guys know that, well, you may know that we have an office in Belmont Center, and we're going to be opening up an office in Watertown Center right on Arsenal Street, near Wild Willie's. So if you're there for lunch, come on over and see our branch and say hi to Stepan Chaloyan, who is the branch manager there. Thank you.
It's going to be short. I'm Gary Rossi, and I'm Executive Director at Freedom Commons at Belmont Hill. And for those of you who don't know who and what we are, we're a high-end senior retirement community that's being built on the McLean Hospital property. So we're going to be putting in 292 independent living condominiums for seniors, folks who are 62 and above, and as well as a healthcare center that'll have a skilled nursing facility with 58 private rooms, assisted living 30, and dementia and Alzheimer's care. So we're real happy with the way things are going. We're going to be starting to build our community towards the end of the summer, and we're in the phase right now where we're marketing and we're accepting deposits from folks. So if you know of anybody who'd love to live in the wonderful town of Belmont and is a senior and looking to downsize and simplify their life, just have them give us a call. Thank you.
The state Real Estate Property Transaction Manager for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Capital Planning and Operations. Mr. Younger received a bachelor's degree in journalism with a minor in political science from Boston University and a master's degree in public administration from Suffolk University. He is an elected member of the Board of Directors of the Massachusetts Municipal Association and is also a member of Governor Patrick's Local Government Advisory Commission. He is also the elected District 4 representative, representing various communities in Middlesex, Norfolk, and Bristol counties in the Massachusetts Municipal Management Association, and is an active member of the International City Management Association. Mr. Younger lives in Belmont with his wife, daughter, and son. He was also raised in Belmont and graduated from Kendall Elementary School, Belmont Junior High School, and Belmont High School. At this time, I would like to introduce Belmont Town Administrator, Mr. Tom Younger.
Thank you, Brenda. Next time I go through contract administration for my position, I want you to be there representing me and my functions. Thank you. Yes, I think some of you may have been here last year when we met, and I appreciate you being here, particularly on such a nice day. I know you haven't had dessert yet, so I know that's next on the agenda. I know when I spoke here last year, I made a statement regarding a possible override in the town of Belmont of $3 million, and I know it accidentally got attributed to your council member from Watertown, Council Member Younger. And he had to take calls about, what do you mean there's going to be a $3 million override in Watertown? You heard you say that. And so he goes, no, it was the other Younger. So at this point, I don't believe he's here today, but I just want to address to him that there is no override in Belmont this fiscal year to be attributed to him. But we do need $65 million in road construction, so if he wants to take an attribution of that, that's fine for us. Basically, the changes in Belmont, we've had a few in this past year, and some of these you can see as you drive through Belmont. One of the major changes we've done, as we've spoken, is that we have 2 new fire stations in Belmont. A main station on Trapello Road and the substation on Belmont Center. We went from a 3-station to a 2-station system, and those stations we hope are good for another 50, 75 years. We actually closed stations that were over 100 years old in some cases. But what we have done is we sold those stations. I don't know how many here are real estate representatives on the commission here, but we have sold one recently, one for about $1.5 million in Belmont Center for a restaurant that is going to be constructed there in this near month or 2. The second one over, actually in that direction, over the Harvard Lawn Station, sold it for 2 condominium developments for $400,000. Overall, we have probably sold the 3 properties for close to $2.8 million at this point. So we're looking forward to getting those properties underway. We're also using those funds to pay down the debt on the new fire stations. That was part of the package for the debt exclusion votes on the fire stations. Another interesting thing that you'll be seeing in Belmont right along actually Belmont Street is the Our Lady of Mercy's church, which was closed. It is now being marketed. Their campus, it's actually 4 lots. The church, the rectory, the parking lot, and the rectory, church, parking lot, and what's known as the Belmont Senior Center now. That is probably going to be sold for residential use. A number of these properties have been. And we are working with the community residents there to try to get a proper use into that site. We are also looking at some other changes here, which we're very proud of, and working with the Chamber on. We have 2 new restaurants coming into Belmont in the next few months. One in Cushing Square, I think it's a Watertown resident opening up Savino's Restaurant, and it will be the first restaurant in Belmont to have a full liquor license. We granted liquor licenses 3 years ago, but none have come forth. This is the first one. The second one, the name of the restaurant shows me up, but that's at the fire station in Belmont Center, and they will also receive a full liquor license. We'll have one left after those 2 are up for sale. Also along that route, regarding liquor licenses, Belmont is joining most other communities now, depending on the April election, to offer retail licenses. At the election ballot in April, we have 2 retail licenses up for beer and wine sales, and 1 all-alcohol package store license. If they're approved, the town of Belmont will be issuing those licenses in the near future. They've received town meeting approval, but yet we're awaiting the electorate approval. Other areas that we are looking at development on, and I know Mr. Rossi's here from ARC, that is going very well at the McLean property, and we're waiting the time for the permits to come through and development to start happening there. They're selling very well from what I understand, the pre-sales, and they've been a wonderful asset to the community, and they're going to be a great neighbor. Also, on the other side of the McLean property, the Northland development, which are condominium developments, are going very well. They're selling in the ranges, I believe, of the $700,000 to upwards of over $1 million in those developments, and they're going very, very well. We're also looking at some other changes that have helped our community in the business front. The Belmont Farmers Market down at the Belmont Center parking lot is open 1 day a week from basically June to October, and state vendors from the state come by to sell their vegetable wares. and has done very, very well in that, in bringing other people from out of town into the business community to purchase items there, and there's been a very good spillover effect into there, and we welcome any of you to come down and visit that this summer. Also, to help the business community in Belmont Center, we are opening up a town hall parking lot to allow businesses to utilize it after Friday evenings, basically 5 o'clock through Sunday evenings. Because as you know, parking is difficult in Belmont Center, and a number of the restaurants are located right near Town Hall, and we felt that if we open up the lot, it would help the businesses there and also the businesses during the day. And also regarding Belmont Center is that we also developed a Belmont Center planning group. It's a study group to look at Belmont Center to try to see how we can improve the business community there. Looking at what businesses can be brought back in there, what infrastructure needs to be done, signage improvements, landscaping improvements, and that's all done by a volunteer committee. And they have reported back to the Board of Selectmen on such, and we hope to be going forth with some of those ideas in the next year. As we had stated, regarding town buildings, there are town building projects that are going to be going underway. We did approve last year a new senior center, which is on Beach Street at the site of the former Kendall School, which I went to years ago, that burnt down a number of years ago. Actually, all my schools have burnt down. So usually when my kids go around, so that's where Dad used to go to school. But that site's being put to good use, and we hope to have the bids out in May. We've had some issues getting some of the approvals on that project, but it looks like, I hope we're in good shape, and May we'll be putting out for bids there. And once that's completed in about a year and a half, the senior center, which is temporarily located over the Our Lady's Mercy, will be moved out and into that senior center. Other buildings that are on the shelf for the upcoming years is the Belmont Library, as you may know, down by the high school, is actually 43 years old this year. I believe it was built in '64. They have a proposal to reconstruct that library at a cost of excess of $20 million. I mean, Watertown has a lovely library, and Mike, great job with getting that done there in Watertown. But this will all require a debt exclusion vote, which we haven't yet put up for our voters yet. There is some state aid that would come toward it, but it would still be in excess for the voters, probably about $15 to $16 million. We have two school projects that are in the forefront. One is the Wellington Elementary School, which is the old Belmont High School that burned partially down back in the late 60s. That project, I believe, may be a $60 million project, and that is probably next up in the key. Then further down the road is the high school renovations for Belmont High School. I still call that the new high school because I went to that, but that was 33 years ago. And if you're from Belmont, you can call it the new high school, even though it's that old. And I believe there was maybe upwards of $100 million for renovations. Because as you know, when you're renovating a high school, it's generally, I believe, much more costly to renovate than build a new, because you have to keep them in the school and work around that, and it's actually an elongated process. Other projects down the road, and this is where I would trade with Watertown, is you've got the DPW site is a new building in Watertown. Belmont needs a new DPW site. Unfortunately, in most cases for DPW sites, usually they're last on the list because they're usually out of sight, out of mind. They're usually buried away and you don't see them. But this one in Belmont literally needs very serious work. But that is probably at least 15 years away. The last building, and I'd also like to introduce him, is our new police chief, Rich McLaughlin, in Belmont. Formerly the captain in Arlington and a long-term 20-plus year resident of Belmont. Excellent choice, and looking forward to working with him. I've known Rich for over 10 years, and wonderful family, and he's an excellent communicator, and everyone so far seems to be very pleased with his performance. But he will eventually need a new police station. He came from Arlington, whose police station is about 24, 25 years old. And when Rich came over, I said, how old's your station? He goes, 25. And it's like, I just remember it being built a few years ago, and it's, at this point, it's probably half its life expectancy, because generally look at 50 years, minimum 50 years for life expectancy. But his building is going out for possibly a feasibility study in the near future for that project. Infrastructure is a very big issue in Belmont. Sitting at our table there, and the biggest complaint I have in Belmont, and I would probably hear from most of you, what's your biggest complaint about Belmont? What's your second? Second complaint is probably sidewalks. But the roads. We've actually looking at some studies for that. It is going to cost between $65 and $85 million to generally get our roads up. And that's not all the roads. Generally get our roads up to an acceptable level. I mean, my office, I can't speak for Mike's office, but I mean, literally every day we usually get at least one pothole complaint or my car overran. I actually had one of my selectmen, who is now a state rep, Will Brownsberger, actually had a stress fracture in his ankle last week by stepping into a pothole. We did deny the claim. But that just shows you what the situation is there. And literally, we only put in about $1 million a year for road work in Belmont, and that's not going to get you there. Because most times the cost of reconstructing a major road well exceeds that. I mean, there is some good news on the horizon. It looks like there may be some more Chapter 90 money coming down from the state for roadways this upcoming year. But that's not going to crack the budget. In Belmont's case, there's going to have to be a vote. There's going to have to be a vote to go upwards of a debt exclusion or a stabilization fund to begin the road projects. Because the further we let them go, it's just going to be costlier and costlier to pay for them. I know we have the Pleasant Street project that's going on right now that may complete by next year. But all the secondary roads are problem areas, and particularly after a storm, it just breaks up more and more and you patch them. And this is something that we admit we do the best to our ability, but we haven't done that great a job. And it is going to cost money to do that. And I believe right now that's probably the biggest issue besides budgetary issues that face all towns, that face Belmont specifically, are the road issues. Other issues right now is that we also have, probably coming up shortly, though there may be court issues involved, is the Uplands development. There is a 40B housing project, a little less than 300 units, off of Route 2 over on the Cambridge side. For those who remember it, and we're dating ourselves, the old Aku site. The old Faces Disco right behind there is they're looking to, and they've received from the ZBA tentative approval for a 290 unit 40B project there. That was rezoned for office and R&D, but the developer, the O'Neill Associates, are looking at for housing. So there will be some court challenges on that. Right now I know of 2 court challenges on it as of this week, so I don't know what time that will be actually developing. We also have, besides new police chief, we also have a new light department manager in Belmont, Tim Richardson, who was our interim director, is now the new director of the light department. We wish him well. And we also will be having a new selectman at the April election. Will Brownsberger, longtime member of the board, as you well know, was elected as the state representative from Belmont and parts of Cambridge and Arlington this fall, and his seat is up for election this year. And it's actually an unopposed race. All Belmont's races this year, with the exception of library trustees, are unopposed. And so it should be, unless there's a write-in campaign, which I doubt, Dan Leclerc, former school committee member from Belmont, and we wish Dan the best, and I'm sure he'll do an excellent job as selectman. But we're looking at future issues here, and we can't dismiss budget. Right now, Belmont, for the upcoming year, has between a $2 and a $2.4 million deficit in the proposed FY08 budget. And most of that is generally fixed costs. This is, if you're not including, we're not including any new hires. I can't speak for the school, I speak for the general government. No new hires. No real additions to the packages, just contractual obligations. We haven't given outrageous wages, but there are certain items, fixed costs, such as health care. Healthcare in Belmont actually is very similar to in Watertown. I think we both offer 90%, we pay 90% of the costs for health insurance. And for those who aren't involved in government here, I have to tell, you have to negotiate those changes. It's not like going out and saying, because we can't afford this, you're going to 80-20 or 70-30. Those have to be negotiated. Obviously, that's something that we're on top of and doing our best to try to reduce that. But our health insurance costs this year, Mike, I don't know what yours was. Ours went up 11.5% on the new, I assume you're probably close to that to a certain degree, went up. Now, there are some options that we're looking at. In this Municipal Partnership Act that Governor Patrick filed, it allows the towns an opportunity through some actually coalition bargaining issues to go into the Group Insurance Commission. That's something that Belmont would look at, and that would be a possibility to go into if that gets approved to save some costs there. You know, other things, we made it very clear to the unions that through negotiations, the health insurance is an issue, and we hope to come to hopefully some resolution on that in the future. Those major costs, our retirement costs, are hurting too, and that's something that we can't really control too much at this point. I mean, there is something in the Municipal Relief Partnership Act that would allow the retirement boards to go into the state system if they meet certain criteria. There's 2 criteria. Belmont only meets one of them, so I don't think we'd be allowed into the system. Most communities don't meet both criteria, so it'd be difficult to go into. And they're also looking at, and this is interesting, more so to Watertown and Belmont, also but all communities, the Municipal Partnership Act, and not maybe speaking to the councilors here because it would come before the councilors in Watertown and Belmont would be town meeting, is the local meals option tax. I'm just speaking, I'm not giving yes or no on it, I'm just stating it would be placing a 1 or 2% local option tax on meals for communities where 75% of the revenue obtained by that increase goes back to the city and towns. I know in Belmont's case, based on Department of Revenue numbers, if we adopted it, it would bring back between $226,000 and $113,000 to Belmont, depending upon which rate you set. So that'll be up for discussion, but I'm not certain when the legislature will act on that portion of the act, but would require either Watertown Town Council's approval and a Belmont Town Meeting approval. Other items which we're looking at in Belmont is we're looking at, we can't do this alone. We have to look at various changes in our town government, not necessarily in structure of commissions or boards, but how we operate. And we're looking at various items. One item that we're really heading up on is regionalization. We've started, and I appreciate Watertown for being an aspect of it. There's a group of about 10 communities that we're trying to work with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council regarding regionalized purchasing and also services. We are looking at, particularly very shortly, going out for regionalized office supplies and also regionalizing other purchases for savings with the communities. We are looking at possibly regionalizing services. I mean, I knew years ago Belmont and Watertown did something with the animal control officer that for one reason or another didn't work out, but we're looking at areas such as that. In the town of Belmont, we're also looking at various structure issues regarding what the core services are. What technically are the core services for a community to produce? Obviously, the police chief's here, he's happy, you're a core service. So you're fine. But basically, you know, besides, you know, public works, education, public safety, what else are the core services that a community should provide? I've always felt core services what the town itself believes it needs, not necessarily what all the other towns do. It's what you see as an image of your town. What Watertown believes is their image of what they want to give as services, I believe, is their version of what core services are. But obviously, library services, recreational, I mean, certain services aren't required by statute, but is it something the town feels is part of their image, part of their culture that they want to produce? So we're looking at those areas. Outsourcing, that's more of a non-Massachusetts issue, where various communities outside of Massachusetts may outsource certain functions. I think we do that to a certain degree. I think maybe some communities do outsourcing some of their inspectional services, food inspectional services, and so forth. So we're looking at that. Now, mind you, even if all this comes into fruition, it won't fix a $2 million deficit. The regionalization, one thing Mike and I have been working on, the office supplies, we did a count of what office supplies are for the town of Belmont. Even if I saved 50%, I'm saving $40,000 a year. That's great. It helps in the process, but it won't solve the structural issues that towns have. But we need to do those issues. If I am looking to get an override passed in Belmont in the next couple of years, we need to show that we're making these changes, even how little they are, that we're trying to make these changes to help lower any of our cost and deficit issues. At that case, it's an override is very likely. But even if we had an override in Belmont this year for the $2 million, that would help this year and maybe next year. But you're going to need additional overrides in the next few years if you don't have good, proper planning. I believe you should be looking at everything in at least a five-year budgetary cycle. You've got to have consistency in your departments. Chief McLaughlin, I'm expecting he and I will probably retire about the same time. So keep a space for us at ARC, Gary, for both of you guys. I think when we both hit the 62 level and both our kids are out of college, moved back with us and then moved out again, that we'll be up there at that same time. But you need consistency. You need to have people in there who share your vision, who work with you on the plan. And I believe we now have that in Belmont, that we do have the consistency. But overrides, if you're reading the papers, are now getting to be a part of life in municipalities. It may not be something that people like to see or like to hear. Winchester just passed an override, which I was very surprised at last night, for it was either 1.3 or 1.5 million dollars that just got approved for operational. In Belmont, in all likelihood, not this year, but next year, could see a minimum of a 3 million to $4 million override for operations. And that's not including the roads. Roads are a whole separate issue. But I think that's a part of life that we're going to have to learn to balance here. Also, as we stated, healthcare issues, we've got to work with them on that to try to bring those costs down. And just lastly, what I want to do is, my feeling is, what I can do for the business community. Now, obviously, Brenda's done a great job here bringing Belmont businesses in the Chamber of Commerce. I believe most of these are Watertown. But basically what I want to do, and we're trying to do in Belmont, is make it more business friendly. I mean, that's something everyone hears. Everyone comes in and says, we'll make it more friendly for businesses. But we're trying to bring in, we have an economic development manager who's heading up our planning office, but we want to also possibly bring in someone just to be a liaison to the business community. I mean, I've been spending my time. Yesterday, I had somebody call me in my offices on 30 minutes who wants to relocate their architecture service business from the Arlington or Cambridge. And I went through on the phone, we discussed sites and such. I think that's what we need to do, the business community. Help them, service them, get them in here, and make their life easier so they can go about doing what they know best. I had another business 2 weeks ago from Concord came in my office, wants to create a second retail operation in Belmont. Sat with them for 35 minutes. I'm very optimistic they'll come in. But if not, they got a good feeling from Belmont that we're trying to help them come in here, even if they can't don't make the decision to enter here. So literally, my door is always open. Call me at any time. I'm not trying to steal business from Watertown, but if you want to open up secondary business, please come over and do Belmont. We'd certainly appreciate it. And I assume that Mike and I'll be answering any questions after the fact. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Tom Younger. I'm going to ask that you just hold all questions until the other speaker has finished, and at that time, when you have questions, just raise your hand, and Bob Capralian will go around with the mic so we can hear the question as well as you hearing the answer. Okay, our next speaker is the town manager for Watertown, Michael Driscoll. I'll read a brief bio. Mr. Driscoll serves as town manager in a council-manager form of government with 9 elected town council members. As chief administrative officer, he is working closely with the town council for legislative and policy guidance. He is responsible for all administrative functions in the community. Since becoming town manager in 1993, Mr. Driscoll submitted 14 municipal budgets based on sound business practices. As a result of working with the town's finance team, Watertown's undesignated fund balance is $7 million, which represents a $9.4 million increase from a $2.4 million deficit in 1993. Additionally, the community's bond rating has been upgraded twice since 1996. In an effort to provide the highest level of essential service possible with the most efficient utilization of resources, it's initiated services such as curbside recycling and intermunicipal agreements for animal control and plumbing inspectional services. During tenure as town manager, Tom has created an aggressive capital improvement program and has reinvested in the infrastructure of the community. Projects include building a senior center, renovation and expansion of all schools, and the renovation of 3 fire stations, town hall, skating arena, and all parks and playgrounds. Renovation and expansion of the Public Works facility and the main library. Current projects includes the building of a new police station. He led the collaborative effort in reaching a memorandum of understanding with Harvard University that will bring more than $480 million in payment in lieu of taxes and $5 million in community enrichment funds to the community over the next 50 years. He has served as town manager since 1993. He was treasurer, collector, Town of Watertown, skating rink manager, Town of Watertown. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Administration from the University of Massachusetts. At this time, I would like to introduce Michael Driscoll.
Thank you, Brenda. It's a pleasure to be here today in this annual event. I'll try to be as concise and quick as possible. Today's discussion point that Mr. Younger and I had been asked to talk about was accomplishments in 2006 and what was looking forward to it in 2007. My comments today will be provide an overview of the financing and the taxes of Watertown, the infrastructure improvements in Watertown, a little blurb on community development, a little discussion about the town services we're currently offering, the fiscal year 2008 budget issues that Mr. Younger just cited, some council policy guidelines the council's enacted, upcoming matters, and that'll all be done in 15 minutes. So, one of the things stated at this hall before the chamber is back in the Boston Globe in April of 2001. April 1 of 2006, the Boston Globe had reported there were 164 override attempts made in calendar year 2006, almost half the community cities and towns. In Watertown, the submitted fiscal year 2007 budget included funding to maintain existing staffing levels in all departments. The questions is why is Watertown doing well? There are many reasons. Many of the people in here today, we've got some of our town councils here today. We've got Councilor Marilyn Devaney, we've got Councilor Angie Canellis, Councilor Steve Corbett, we've got the chair of the library trustees, Ms. Mastrangelo. We've got 7 of our department heads who were, in my estimation, are the finest group working in any city and town, and certainly perhaps parallel in Belmont, but in Watertown, certainly my allegiance is there. I'd like to just briefly introduce them. They're the eyes and the ears to the citizens of the community each and every day. one of our senior members here today is our Director of Public Health, Stephen Ward. If you could stand, Steve. Stephen has been working in the community since 1995. We're very, very fortunate to have him in Watertown. Steve, along with our Fire Chief Arangio, Police Chief DeVoe, Superintendent of Public Works Jerry Mee, have met in a collaborative effort to get the towns prepared for emergency preparedness. Steve is very, very well known in the public health field, and Watertown's very lucky to have him. Sitting to his right is Bob Erickson, our veterans agent. Again, Bob is a very, very hard worker. One accomplishment, and I don't want to cite because we're going to try to do this all in 15 minutes. One item that Bob spearheaded working with the town council was to enact the general laws that would, if any of our men and women serving in the service who are Watertown employees, if their monies, if they're going away and leaving their families, if their pay was not, their military pay was less than what they would be receiving as an employee of the town in fact would make up the difference. So in essence, taking away some of the concerns when our men and women who are serving the country and worrying about their families. So to Mr. Erickson, work with the town council on that. Additionally, at that same table, we've got our chairman of the Board of Assessors, Dan Laughlin. Dan made a nice presentation last night regarding taxes, and he's the only assessor I've known that can talk about taxes and have all the town councils compliment him about it also. So he does a nice job with that. Additionally, with us today is our purchasing agent, Nushi Robinson, and who also chairs up the town government working group on computer technology, has worked tirelessly in working with other department heads to move forward with that endeavor. Particularly, we're looking to move forward with having a citizens tracking form so that people can use the internet more and raise issues on a 24/7 basis. Additionally, at the same table is Greg Watson, our Community Development Planning Director. And again, we're very fortunate to have Greg, you'll see later in some of the community development endeavors, very, very busy, and Watertown is never boring. Lastly, regarding the department heads, we have, again, with all due respect to the library board, library director, who I know and used to work in Watertown. We've got, in my estimation, the finest library director working in Watertown, and today she's Leon Cole. I did, perhaps I overlooked, we do have, I mentioned the town councils, we also have our state representative, Rachel Caprillion, here with us also. Going to try to talk as quickly as possible on finances in Watertown. On June 30th of '06, the results we had were that we brought in $2 million more monies in revenue than we budgeted. Those were related to three items: inspectional fees, investment income, and some monies we received back from Neswick. Those are one-time monies. With respect to the expenditures, we returned $700,000 to the bottom line, so $2.7 million change. Brenda talked about the unreserved fund balance. Today in Watertown, it's $7 million. That's a healthy reserve fund balance. It helps us in dealing with our trying to move forward with infrastructure improvements. When you talk to the rating agencies and indicate to them that what we're looking to do in trying to leverage some of those monies to realize that we're not spending money we don't have. That being said, with respect, you talked earlier about Mr. Laughlin, about the taxes. Last night, the town council in Watertown, we're fortunate to have a commercial tax base, which is about 18.5% of the total tax base. And in Belmont, it's only 5%. So that's a significant difference. One of the issues last night the town council voted was to shift the traditional shift to 175. That's going to result in, with respect to the average tax bill in Watertown for residential, will be going up about a little less than 4%, 3.98, $162. With respect to commercial, estimated tax increase is about 5.23. The average dollar amount for a commercial will be $1,731. It's interesting when you talk about taxes, particularly residential taxes. One of the things, and I mentioned that commercial tax base, which all of you in here, a lot of you in here today, contribute to that. Watertown is very fortunate that we have that commercial tax base. I'll give you an example. For fiscal year 2007, the average residential tax bill in Watertown is $4,200. And in the town of Arlington, the average tax bill is $5,300. Again, in the town of Belmont, and this is certainly nothing related to the management of Belmont, but certainly related to the commercial tax bill, the lack of commercial tax base, the average residential tax bill in Belmont is $8,200. So when you're looking at tax dollars and commercial tax base, that's why we're here. I'm very, very appreciative of the commercial tax base. It certainly helps the community. It helps the town council working with the assessor and working with trying to keep the taxes at a manageable level. Mr. Younger indicated that certainly the dollar amounts that we're dealing with, we can go up 2.5%, and everything else is, the budget busters are significantly higher than that. Very quickly, walking through the infrastructure improvements within the last year. One of the things we've done as you know, as I've mentioned here before, the town council has appropriated over $45 million since 1995 to renovate and expand the Watertown schools. One of the things the town council did to protect that investment over this past summer was to appropriate another $535,000 for improvements to protect that investment. One of the pieces of that $535,000 was the replacement of the high school gymnasium stands. I believe that the replacement of the stands is the reason the boys' basketball team is on the verge of that thing. We've got to take credit for that. But additionally, Fire Chief Arangio, who can be here with us today, secured a U.S. Department of Homeland Security grant that the town council matched 10% of it. It was a $100,000 grant that allowed for putting in systems, air quality at all of our firehouses to remove all the exhaust. It's been a long-standing issue that the town has wanted to move forward with, again, safety for the men and women in the fire department. Another infrastructure issue that we had a property that the town owned for many years. It was located on 124 Riverside Street. The town council established some policy guidelines. We auctioned that property off. Had over 50 registered auction people come to the auction. The bid was received. We received over $400,000 and the property is back on the tax rolls. The town council used some of those monies by appropriating $50,000 to the home improvement program and another $289,000 to the housing partnership to help with some of the endeavors in the affordable housing within Watertown. Additionally, in June, the town council appropriated another $1,400,000. Some of the key components of that loan authorization was buying of an aerial ladder truck that was needed to be replaced, a computer-aided dispatch and report management system for the police department, which I'll speak to momentarily, and additional public works equipment. I spoke earlier about Mr. Younger complimented me for the library. Quite frankly, I appreciate the compliment, but again, I spoke about the library chair, the board of directors, library board of trustees, Ms. Mastrangelo, and the trustees, Ms. Cole representing Caprillion, we received almost $3 million of a state grant. Back in August of this year, we had over 2,000 people coming to the library. In my estimation, it's the nicest library in Massachusetts by far. One of the only negative issue of the library is parking. And so certainly, when we're building it, they would come, we will work. That's a challenge we need to work on, but I would urge any of you, one of the things we're getting a significant amount of usage out of is the Watertown Square meeting room, Watertown Savings Bank meeting room. which has become a significant asset and has helped out with all of the community groups looking to move forward with having meetings around there. With respect to community development, I'm going to kind of briefly go through, Mr. Watson put together a rather lengthy presentation. I'm not going to read through each one of them because I'm going to try to do all of this in 15 minutes. Just a couple of the highlights that I wanted to talk about is the Beacon properties on Pleasant Street, as you all know, right down by Russo's, across from Russo's. The first phase of that construction is well underway, and it's anticipated 187 units will be available in late summer of 2007. Upon completion, the project will develop 385 units of housing on approximately 13 acres along Pleasant Street. There are the St. Teresa's and First Baptist Church have got some new condominiums going into both of those issues. Additionally, on Pleasant Street, which I'll talk a little while later, the owner of the former office building at 290 Pleasant Street has successfully converted that former vacant commercial space into 57 loft-style studio apartments. The developer contracted with Watertown Community Housing to facilitate the lottery of 7 affordable units for qualified applicants. Additionally, moving quickly to some of the other town services, I'm not going to have time to go through all of them. The one that I did want to cite, and one department head I didn't bring up, was the Police Chief Edward DeVoe. I do welcome his counterpart from Belmont and wish him the best. And certainly in Watertown, and I know Ron Dean had mentioned this at his Club 50 presentation in December, but Watertown, and we've talked about this before, during the first week in November, the Watertown Police Department was reassessed by a team of assessors representing the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. After the completion of that multi-day assessment, the team recommended that the Watertown Police Department be reaccredited. Currently, there are only 23 law enforcement agencies in Massachusetts out of the approximately 400 agencies that have been granted this accreditation status. The Watertown Police Department has been accredited since 2003 under the leadership of Chief DeVoe. The accreditation process is a progressive and time-proven way of helping institutions evaluate and improve the overall performance, increase efficiency and professionalism, and I think the attainment of state accreditation is one form of proof of the professionalism of the Watertown Police Department, and the accreditation can increase the confidence of the general public who are here today in the effectiveness and efficiency and responsiveness of the men and women of the police department. So, Chief, do you have... I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Steve Ward working with Chief DeVoe and also with Chief Arangio, who heads up our emergency management, along with Jerry Mee, in dealing on a daily basis in trying to prepare for emergency preparedness issues that may come. And again, it's another aspect of government that has changed that need to keep an eye on all of those issues. Moving as quickly as possible, I want to talk about some of the budget issues. Mr. Younger, Tom Younger, talked about those. The good news is we did very, very well in fiscal year 06. The bad news is that fiscal year 08 is a significant issue. Mr. Younger talked about in Watertown, in Belmont, there's about a $2.4 million challenge or shortfall. We've got budget issues, there's about 7 of them, and I'll read them very, very quickly. Health insurance costs, collective bargaining, retirement, capital projects, the reuse of town buildings, uncertainty of local aid, emergency preparedness, funding, and all of those affect departmental operating budgets. With respect to health insurance cost, we've got in fiscal year 07 to 08, we've got a forecast going up $1.8 million. 08 to 09 is 1.4, and 09 to 010 is 1.5. And I stated before, Mr. Younger had cited that, and Rachel Caprillion certainly played a significant role in having, in the Municipal Partnership Act with Governor Patrick, allowing city towns to consider joining the Group Insurance Commission. I would specifically state, you've heard it many times from me, you've read about it in the paper, that the Watertown cannot continue to pay the current level of service of health insurance for our employees. That health insurance level today is that the town is paying 90% of the premium, and it also includes a plan design to fight all the copay. Both of those have to change. If they don't change, it'll affect the level of services that we can offer the citizens of the community. The second budget issue is collective bargaining. We've got 6 bargaining units right now that have contracts that are outstanding, predominantly because of health insurance. Those remain to be seen. The last item on the budget issues is retirement appropriation. Our unfunded pension liability today is $53 million. Mr. Dean asked earlier that that's not even talking about post-employment benefits that we'll need to start accounting for. We are, certainly, there was a presentation that Councilor Canellis had asked for last night. Town order to make a presentation about Section 5 of Governor Patrick's Municipal Partnership Act, which would allow cities and towns, and some of them wouldn't be allowed, they'd be mandated to move their monies to state fund to PRIT because of higher rate of return. Mr. Tracy made that presentation last night. Certainly there's more significant more review of that, but that clearly would provide flexibility, and I applaud the state legislation and the governor for filing this, that perhaps would allow the communities to invest their monies, move some of those monies to the state fund, which have more latitude in how they can invest. Right now, Watertown is appropriating almost $7 million a year in the retirement fund, and it is certainly going to, it's another budget buster that needs to be addressed, and to protect the retirees' pension, but also protect the taxpayers in paying for the pension systems. Another item that I'd like to briefly touch upon is the Town Council, to their credit, have adopted formal policy guidelines for fiscal year 2008. What the Town Council have done, we've certainly in Watertown operated kind of an informal basis with a lot of financial policies regarding unreserved fund balance, capital expenditures, and post-employment benefits. One of the things that the Town Council also was looking for, and to the Council's credit, the policy guidelines stated as follows: Town Council believes that identification of cost savings and new revenue should be a precondition to any additional expenditures. And to that end, the development of the fiscal year 08 budget, the town should consider the following items. One of them, obviously, the number one priority was seek to contain increases in health insurance costs by negotiating structural changes in health insurance. Other items that the Town Council wanted to have the administration consider was explore whether adding a second ambulance in the fire department would generate sufficient revenue to cover or exceed the incremental costs. Explore potential savings in energy costs by doing an energy audit of all the town buildings. Explore whether adding additional building inspectional staff would be cost efficient and also improving the building code compliance. Explore ways to the town to increase the capacity of obtaining grant funding, and analyze whether the town revenues for license permits and fees are consistent with other cities and towns are doing. Additionally, the council wanted to look at the capacity of the community development planning staff to do their jobs as well as the recreation. Another issue that the town council very much wanted to look at was streets and sidewalks, and the other one was to consider greater utilization of the town's website, and we certainly touched upon that by trying to get into a citizens tracking form. The last portion of my speech, doing it as quickly as I can, is upcoming issues. One of the things you know, as I spoke before, is the Town Council appropriated significant monies to renovate Watertown Square. The Town Council is now turning their attentions on Coolidge Square. That project's going to include the implementation of transportation improvements that will accommodate both present and future traffic demands. It's a safety study. The Town Council has appropriated monies to begin that study. Additionally, staying in the same area down there, Coolidge Square area at Coolidge School is at this point looking to move forward with the 38 units in the former Coolidge School, looking for a closing with Mitchell Properties in September. The reuse of town buildings, one of them is that the Town Council had asked Watertown Community Foundation to do a outreach to the citizens about what we should be doing with the town branch libraries that were turned over by the library trustees. The last thing I want to talk about is Pleasant Street. Town Council has considered a moratorium on allowing in the I-3 district any conversions from commercial to residential while a Pleasant Street corridor study is being undertaken. That, if you will, is kind of the town's last frontier of availability. To the Town Council's credit, the concern is that they want to do a proper planning study of how that Pleasant Street corridor should go. In the last, talking as quickly as I can, the last but not least, infrastructure improvements is going to be the police station. And since 1993, the Town Council has appropriated monies. Every building that you look at that the town services, the citizens provide services, has been either renovated or expanded or built new. And now we're down to the police station. So last night, there was a first reading for plans and specifications for a new police facility that will be built at 552 Main Street, which is the former Brown School. We've negotiated an agreement with an architect firm. The Town Council will consider the plans and specification loans. It will be a brand-new facility, 34,500 square feet at the Brown School site, a new state-of-the-art facility. And that, in my estimation, will all of the town buildings will be done since 1993 when we first started with the senior center. So in closing, Brenda and members of the chamber, I do appreciate the opportunity. I do look forward to continuing working with the chamber, working with the town council on building on the progress we have made in providing the highest level of services to the citizens while utilizing the taxpayers' dollars as efficiently as possible. Thank you. And John Dunny are on, have been meeting with the community development folks as well as with some of the engineers on trying to look at structured parking within Watertown Square. I firmly believe that the Watertown Free Public Library, in my estimation, the citizens of the community have a library that they've been waited a long, long time for. But one of the issues that it certainly has escalated is when you build it, they come. And so now we've got problems with parking. We've had some discussions on an interim level with the Boys Club. That's where I'm parking today. We've got some department heads parking over there. We've had some discussion with some of the local businesses about looking to do some satellite parking. I would suggest that, again, Council Corbett working with Council Canellis and Council Donahue and Greg Watson is not an easy answer. There is some discussions about another area that I had requested that the council looked at was engaging some discussions with the MBTA folks, the Carbine, regarding the possibility of obtaining or collaboratively working with some additional parking, not only the commuters that are going in there, but looking if we can use some of those parking. One of the things that in my rush to get through this presentation, as you know, working with Mr. Watson and the council, trying to refocus the river down there so there is a height in the area. So it was probably a pretty good answer of dancing and not answering the question, but there are multiple things we're looking at, and it's something that's going to need to be continually monitored and develop something. I mean, clearly, one issue that would help is the police department folks leaving, but they really can't leave until the other building is built. So that certainly would be a positive regarding that, but that's not something that's going to be resolved overnight. And to the council's credit, continue to looking and see how we can come up with some solutions to it.
Mike, regarding the ambulance issue, has the town considered, and I'm sure you have, teaming up with Belmont on ambulance issues?
Again, the question was about the ambulance. That the town council has, what we have right now, we have mutual aid. Both Watertown and Belmont run an ambulance. If Belmont folks are busy and they get a second Belmont call, Watertown folks go over there, vice versa. Unfortunately, in the day and age we live, that there are a lot of ambulance runs. And so certainly there was a thought that perhaps we have 2 ambulances, whether we potentially could look at having a second ambulance be available. What we're not going to do, we're not going to hire 8 firefighters to put on 2 a shift for ambulance. Because quite frankly, the town council's resolution was if it could be done with bringing in the revenues there. So certainly both Tom and I have got, and both fire chiefs work very, very well, as both police chiefs work very, very well. That's an opportunity where if we have additional men and women on a shift, there may be a consideration of running 2 ambulances, but with existing staff. So but that's not, if you will, it was an opportunity to potentially, even increase the level of services to the citizens, but not by adding additional staff that, quite frankly, we can't afford.
Just as a follow-up to that, as Mike stated, in Belmont, we are not anticipating also adding any firefighters to our staff in the next year also, so just want to add that to it.
Hi, Mr. Driscoll.
Representative.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. You made reference to the GASB 45 study, which is going to will insist that cities and towns, as well as the state, are going to have to come up with a plan to fund future benefits, health benefits for retirees. Can you elaborate a little bit on sort of what your plans are, how you're going to put those things in place, and most importantly, how the town is going to come up with the money to begin to meet its obligation in the future?
Questions aren't getting any easier.
We're in Watertown, Mike.
Yeah. Again, the question related to, it came up earlier with Mr. Dean earlier in the lunch, and now our representative Brilliant has asked about post-employment benefits. One of the requirements of the GASB is that that cities and towns are going to, if you will, account for the post-employment benefits, which is right now we're on a pay-as-you-go system for our retirees. We've got to go do actuarial studies, which are about, Mr. Tracy reported to town council on this. We've currently talked about assets, and over $100 million would be the liability, or on about $100 million of liability. I find it interesting when people indicate, well, all you have to do is put it in your financial statements, what the number is. Quite frankly, the representative's question about how we're going to move forward with that, I would say very prudently, but develop one of the council's policy guidelines was to develop a strategy how to move forward. So certainly what we're going to identify next year when I'm here a year from now and telling what the dollar amount is, and certainly looking to if we had some monies that we could systematically start placing for that post-employment benefits. But at this point, that's going to be more than a significant challenge. And so at this way, it still remains to be seen how we'll go about it. The council in '08 had asked that to start developing a policy, so I think we'll take all of fiscal year '08 to come out with a concrete plan.
Yes, as a bank or a lender, and also as a employee who has been witness to a number of acquisitions and has borne witness to the improvement of operating efficiencies, I'm just wondering if you can comment on what the obstacles are to regionalization and why that we wouldn't go forward with those kinds of improvements?
Thank you, Mike. No, this is fine. This is something I really actually enjoy talking about. I actually started out in this business in 1981 as the administrator at Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard. You're literally talking about an island of 6 communities that is screaming for regionalization. But you have 6 towns, 6 police departments, 6 school systems, 6 fire departments of various degrees. So literally, if you're looking at regionalization, where I started in 1981, you literally could have had it. It didn't develop. To a certain degree, it didn't develop there is because the communities liked having their own structure. They had their own image. They were the town of Oak Bluffs, you're the town of Edgartown, Vineyard Haven, Tisbury. They all had different cultures, different images of themselves. So regionalization did not work there as well as it should have. They tried it for planning. They had a planning commission. You couldn't get all 6 communities into it. So part of it starts with the community itself, that they want to enter into this. What we're beginning here in Massachusetts is actually one of the states that really isn't that great in regionalization like they should. My wife is from New Jersey in Pennsylvania, and when she moved here, she couldn't understand its county form of government, generally. You know, you have a much larger great aspect of regionalization, and here you have your own towns. Belmont's doing their own thing, Watertown's doing their thing, Arlington, and we're trying to bring that together. Items such as ambulance, as you discussed, we have mutual aid. That's generally what most fire departments do, but purchasing, we really don't. There are some areas out there that do it. I'm trying to bring us together to do purchasing together for various items, everything from fuel bill bids to office supplies to equipment. Give you an example. We're in the process, hopefully in our budget, to get a new fire vehicle bidding out. I called my former town, North Reading, called the fire chief. I said, by the way, in your bidding list, do you have any of these items this year? He goes, yeah, we have this vehicle. Great, let's bid them out together. You know, you don't have that aspect. I'm trying to bring that in there. We still think of ourselves as islands. I mean, I came from an island. We're not an island here. Health insurance, there are still some associations that do regionalized health insurance. But it's just your vision. You have to get away from this that we're by ourselves. And that's part of it. And I think Mike's trying to do it. I'm definitely working on it with other communities at this point.
I want to thank both speakers, Mr. Driscoll, Mr. Younger. Very informative. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think at this point we're going to end the program. Just a couple of reminders for the Chamber. We have 3 events coming up. We have our $10,000 raffle a week from Friday night, March 23rd at VHB. We do have tickets today if anybody's interested. Taste of the Towns, our biggest community event on Thursday, April 26th at the Hellenic Cultural Center, and our annual golf tournament up here at the Oakley on Monday, May 21st. I thank you all for coming.